All right, what's up, guys? It's Cadence with Rock Roads and Relics, the podcast where we talk all things cars, rock music, and antiques. I'm really excited today because I got awesome guest on, Jose Urquiza from 3 Years Hollow. So, man, thanks so much for hopping on.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
Bro, of course. So, dude, I don't even know where to start because you've got so much cool stuff going on. I guess we'll start talking about 3 Years Hollow. Coming out of the Quad Cities, is there a rock scene there, or is it?
Yeah. Goodness, it's funny because right now it's been so long since I've been out to any shows. Obviously, there's nothing going on right now. And even before that, I've kind of been focused on in the studio, so we weren't really playing out as much. So I'm not as connected to the scene right now as I was, but before there was definitely a great rock scene, great metal scene, great rock scene, lots of different music in the Quad Cities.
Yeah, because that's interesting. Because I'm from Virginia, and there's, it's like Quad Cities and Virginia, not places you'd really think to like hear rock music coming out of.
Yeah.
But like, because you guys are friends with Elysium, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they're from out here. Yeah, and
Yep.
we have Lamb of God is from Richmond, so they're like our big, home team pretty much. But
yeah, from the Midwest, in this particular area where we are, we're like just a couple of hours away from Chicago. We're just a couple hours away from Peoria, where Mudvayne came out of.
Yeah.
We're just a few hours from Des Moines, where Slipknot came out of. And Chicago, they had Chevelle, Disturbed, so many great bands. Non-Points up there. They're not originally from Chicago, but I know some of the guys are up in the Chicago area. So there's just a lot happening in the Midwest for sure, especially in rock and metal.
Yeah, no, that's just so cool. It's I feel like a lot of the best bands don't come out of where you'd expect. Like, it's like some of the biggest bands are from like small towns, like,
Sure.
Three Doors Down and bands like that just come out of these random, one stoplight kind of towns. So that's
Exactly.
really cool to hear.
That's the kind of town that I'm sitting in right now. It has about 6,000 people as the population. So
wow, yeah.
it's a tiny little town.
Yeah, and so 3 Years Hollow formed in 2009?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So we originally formed, Tony Reeves and I, back in 2003. So,
okay, wow.
And we were originally just Hollow. It didn't have 3 years on it. So we put out a record that's lost to time out there somewhere in 2004. And then 2007 is when we became 3 Years Hollow.
Okay.
And then our album Ascension came out shortly after that.
Yeah. So was there a reason for adding the 3 years, or was that just like?
Yeah, we started getting a little bit of attention from some independent labels, and there was at the time there was already a band that was called Hollow and already had a copyright on it, so we needed to change it.
Oh, yeah.
We had been Hollow for 3 years. We wanted to kind of keep the story going, so we became 3 Years Hollow.
That's really cool.
Since then, there's been a lot of really cool meanings and tie-ins that have kind of added to the meaning of that 3 years term, which has been really, really awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. So Ascension came out that was 2011, right?
Goodness, I don't even know anymore. 2008.
Oh man, it was, yeah. Because
yeah.
So then after that, were you guys touring really heavy, or was it kind of just?
No, we were still trying. Ascension was like, we put that record out when we were trying to get signed and trying to get some attention off of that. And I think then 2012 is when we put out an EP called Remember.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep. And that's when we ultimately got signed and started touring. It's 2012.
Okay. And then Cracks was 2014, and then you guys toured so heavy on that. I mean, you guys were on like Rockstar, Uproar, and went out with like Red and Non-Point and all these kind of bands.
Gemini Syndrome. It was really awesome. We had so many cool tours. Power Man 5000, Islander. We got to play some really awesome bands.
Yeah, that's so.
Even Starset back when they were just a brand new band.
They're one of the bands. Yeah, they got me into rock. Honestly, My Demons was like one of the first.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite of all those tours?
Oh man. I mean, hands down, I'm gonna have to just say the Uproar tour, just due to it was our dream come true, to
Yeah.
go out there on those stages and play in front of that many people. And it's just a whole different vibe when it's at a festival like that. They really take care of you. So it was cool
Yeah.
to feel that as a new artist.
Yeah, I mean, that lineup is just insane. I mean, you had
Yeah,
like
it
Cedar
was
and Skillet, all these.
Skillet. Yeah,
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 that's
yeah,
awesome. And then, so I know there was talk. Well, first of all, you had You and I came out like a couple years ago.
yeah.
That was just the single. I know there was sort of some talk about an album this year.
Hmm.
Is that still like
Yeah,
what's sort of where's that at?
we really wanted to do an album in 2020. Um, we had so many songs. We had maybe 12, 13 songs that we were ready to go in and record. But just with so many different factors in 2020,
Oh, for
it
sure.
didn't happen. So we're gonna put it out actually in 2021, and I think March of this year we will have a new album out.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Is You and I going to be on there, or is
it
that
is, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You and I, a new remixed, remastered version will be on the record.
Okay, sweet. So going back to the Cracks, I mean that album is it's so good, and it's got a bunch of big songs on it. Like Chemical Ride's like almost a 5 million streams on Spotify. Was that song like intended to get that big, or was it just a surprise kind of?
Yeah, I mean, it was the I think the second song that we recorded with a producer, Tadpole, and we had only ever been self-produced or produced by our local producer, who was my mentor, Rob. Um, it was really just our close circle that had worked on Ascension, and even so, when we went to Tadpole, it was a whole new experience. We did Chemical Ride in on one of like the basement levels of Groove Master in
Hmm.
Chicago, which is where Three Doors Down, Disturbed have recorded their records.
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome.
um, and he just it was cool to have an outside view of us and have his input. And he had worked on a lot of really big records at the time too, Tadpole. So when we got that song back and we heard it, we were shocked. Like we were like, holy cow, this is what somebody else was able to take of ours and make it sound like. And
Yeah.
we definitely thought it was going to be the big song, but uh, it actually ended up not even getting pushed as a single.
I was gonna
Um,
ask because like
yeah,
wasn't it
yeah,
was Hungry and For
yeah,
Life were the singles, right?
yeah. It's really weird. So back in the day, again, I say back in the day, this is like 8 years ago, I guess, 7 years ago. Uh, it already had a little bit of attention. Chemical Ride had gotten a little bit of attention on its own, and the label didn't think that it was brand new and fresh to be able to push as a single, because it had already been out there for like a year before we had gotten signed. Well, nowadays, with like Nothing More, for an example, I think This Is the Time had been recorded for at least a year, or at least a year and a half, before it got finally its big push, and then it became number one for
Yeah.
them. So uh, who knows? Maybe Chemical Ride will come back in some way again, but it is our most popular song by far,
Yeah.
even though it hasn't been pushed as a single.
Yeah, it's so funny when that happens. I feel like a lot of bands have stories where like the label or whoever didn't like the song that they thought was going to be the
Yep,
big one, and then it turns out that it's
yep,
a big song. Um, I mean, and did you produce any of that album too? Because I know you're into
yeah,
some production.
yeah. I produced most of it with Clint Lowry from Seven Dust. There was a few songs that we did before Clint got involved, like Chemical Ride and Remember, Lost. A few of those songs were before he came in, but then Clint came in and we basically did everything. We
Yeah,
kind of stripped it all down, and he laid a lot of really cool guitar parts on top of things, some cool vocals, like in For Life, he's singing on the chorus. Um, it was really awesome. Yeah.
yeah. I mean that production on there just holds up so well now. I mean, it's in I guess 6 or 7 years or however long it's been. A lot of stuff has changed with that, but like I had a friend who was asking for rock music, recommendations, whatever. So I was sending her like Fozzy and Seven Dust and bands like that. I threw Chemical Ride on there. and it was like, you listen to these big hit songs from the
Oh
last
yeah.
like 2 years, and you listen to that, and it's like it still holds up so well. So
Thanks, man. That's awesome.
yeah, I think Chemical Ride was her like second most listened to song on Spotify this year too. So I got her on
That's
this
awesome.
train. Yeah. Yeah.
My
So I mean,
son's gonna jump in here. Probably I'm
oh,
doesn't know
you're
I'm
good, dude. You're
on an
good.
interview.
You're good, man. That's awesome. I still need to check out you guys' song you released yesterday. I saw that on Instagram.
Oh yes, he's
Yeah.
Dash is the one that we just put that out.
That's so funny.
All right, I'll see you guys.
That's awesome. So has your son been on tour with you, or is he too
No,
young?
he was too young when we were still touring
Okay.
to see any of that. I think he's maybe been to a couple shows recently, randomly that we did, but yeah, not now. He's 7, so
Okay, so he's really young, yeah.
when we do play again, it'll kind of be fresh for him to see it all.
Yeah, was there any well, actually, I was supposed to catch you guys at Metal in the Mountains this
Yeah,
past summer, with Attila and some other bands that were on there, but that got canceled. Obviously,
that's right.
is there any 2021 touring stuff in the works, or not really?
Right now, no. Actually, the conversation hasn't even been had.
Hmm.
And for smaller bands, it's actually probably easier to get out there and do these things. But there's been a lot of studio stuff going
Yeah,
on and a lot of cool business projects going on. So my focus has kind of been there. And then just recently, we decided about the March thing and putting out a 3 Years Hollow record, and uh, so we'll focus on that. Without really having to go out on the road and tour right
yeah,
away. Yeah.
yeah. So that's just so cool. And like with the Corona stuff with concerts, I know Seven Dust has been like they've done some live stream shows. Have you guys thought about trying to put on anything like that?
Yeah, we have. We've wanted to, and it's really it's just comes down to me and my schedule and making it a priority.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
I get it.
there's so many cool things that we're working on, and I tend to want to work on all of them, and that kind of runs me thin. So I'm trying to bring it all back together right now.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I mean, the Seven Dust guys, how'd you get involved with them? Because now Morgan's
Yeah.
in with the Attic and stuff. So
Yeah, it's great, man. So we owe that to Corey, Clint's brother.
okay,
Because we did a few shows with I Empire very early on, and they were the band actually that took us on our first national tour. I Empire was, so they took us
okay,
out
yeah,
on like 30 dates or something, which was amazing for us. Um, and so Corey was just like, man, I really love what you guys sound like, and you get better every time I see you. So I'd love for you to work with my brother and see what uh, happens. And of course, at the time, I was like, yeah, right. Yeah, like we're gonna work with Clint Lowry. Yeah, right. Um, that would never happen, and then it did. He came to my house, and we worked on a few songs, and he introduced me to Morgan, who was vice president of the record label that we eventually signed to.
yeah,
And so there was just kind of like a trifecta of things. We were doing the uh, Rockstar Uproar Battle of the Bands at the exact same time, and Chemical Ride was like the top song in the country.
that's awesome.
um, so it was just all kind of happened at the same time, actually. And uh, Morgan and I have had a really close relationship ever since. And he started coming here doing some production with other bands, and now we're developing young bands like Allborn. Um, and those projects are starting to see the light of day after working on those for the past couple years.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I'm like, I mean, then you got Sean Foyce from Breaking Benjamin in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
How'd that happen? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, Morgan's is friends with all these guys, and so um, we founded a company. Morgan and I, we started this idea called Instamix Live about bringing in guys like him, and then having uh, aspiring songwriters or even fans get in the same room with them while they're writing a song and actually write a song together.
mhm.
Go back and forth on ideas, those types of things. And so we started doing these Instamix Live things, and then Sean was super interested in doing it, and we were, of course, super excited to have him. And so now we're working on more events with him. Actually, we're going to announce a February event with Sean.
That's yeah, and that's in because he's from
Oh,
Ohio, but the
yeah, yeah.
Instamatic slide, those are in Illinois, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, yep. We're in Illinois. Yep,
Okay,
and
that's
Sean's in Ohio. Yep.
okay. And then I know you guys had Barry Stock from 3 Days Grace come out for one.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just like stuff like that is just so cool to do.
it
And I
is
mean,
so cool, even for me, man. You know, like
yeah,
uh, these guys, I've listened to their music for so long, even when I was young. Like 3 Days Grace was a massive influence. Um, so to now be able to get in a place where we can actually talk to these guys and work with these guys, and
yeah,
Barry is going to come and do another one as well. Hopefully, we're working on that right now. Um, so it's crazy, dude.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like the first kind of thing that like that I've seen happen. At least it's so different than just like a meet and greet or anything. It's
Yeah, yeah, we feel like we've created something new that hasn't existed before. And there's some cool things coming up. The new companies popping up like crazy now, and some of them are uh, doing a little bit of the same thing. So we just gotta, you know,
mhm.
keep doing our thing and keep trying to get new artists to come in and uh, grow it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's just I'd love to get up to one of those. I was supposed to go to the one with Barry and
Oh yeah,
Sean
yeah.
and Morgan back in like November or whatever. And I mean, I assume the turnout for those has just been like amazing. I mean,
Yeah, we limit it to make it not too large of a group. That way
yeah,
you have some good interaction. We've been working on some unique events where we can get a lot of people in there and have a feel like a show and everybody have a great time. But um, we're shut down in Illinois right now, technically, so
okay,
we can't do any business. We haven't been able to do these big events at all. So we've been just kind of holding back, and now going into 2021, we're going to try to do a couple unique things, uh,
yeah,
see if it works.
yeah. That's really cool. And then aren't so Sean and Justin from Alborn? They're kind of involved with the Attic, right?
Justin from Auburn, yeah, we produced his Morgan and I co-produced their whole album that has yet to fully come out.
Okay,
And Justin himself is just an amazing uh, artist and musician. So um, we've constantly found ourselves working together on projects, and now he comes in and co-produces a lot of the projects that I work on because he's just got a great feel for things.
yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys have worked with like Face the Fire and Saul and Blacklight District and all these like bands that I really like. So it's how does this stuff like happen? Do you just
Yeah, Blacklight District was one of the first bands I ever worked with, actually, long time ago when I was still recording, like in my closet.
oh
Um,
yeah.
so he and I, he was just starting to sing, Kyle, on things when I started working with them. So um, the Saw thing came up because Morgan and I were co-writing a lot together, and they wanted to do a co-write with Morgan, so they came down to the attic, and we did the song "Inside" for the record that just came out.
Okay.
So it happens in a bunch of different ways. Honestly, sometimes I'll put out a Facebook post and just say, "Hey, Morgan is coming in for some co-writing opportunities. If there's any artists or bands that want to take advantage of it and maybe learn some things, connect, network, and sometimes we'll discover an awesome new band."
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's just like that's awesome. And on like the Metal in the Mountains lineup, going back to that, I mean, all those bands on there that are like the undercard bands,
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
all these like these sick bands that no one's heard of. And I
That's
just,
right.
it's that's awesome that they're
That's
getting like,
awesome that you're in tune to that stuff.
oh yeah, well, I appreciate that. I mean, it's most of my favorite bands I feel like are
Yeah,
kind of on the smaller side, but yeah, it's so cool. I feel like the rock world is such like a niche now, because it's not
yep,
really mainstream very much anymore. Um, and so it's cool to see all these small bands like Saul getting like this
yeah,
huge single,
yeah.
and being like a newer band.
Absolutely.
And so is the Attic like, do you do recording for anyone who wants to, or do you kind of have
Yeah.
like a specific genre you want to like go for?
I'll work with really any artist because I feel like if I can't find the answer for you, if I don't have the answer for you, I know somebody that can.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk and work with any genre, any artist. I particularly produce and co-write with rock and metal or pop artists mostly.
Yeah.
Um, but I've dabbled in a little bit of hip hop. I love hip hop. Haven't gotten too much into country, but I know a lot of great country producers that would love to come in and be involved in something if there was an artist that
Yeah.
wanted
That's
to work here. So
that's awesome. Have you been producing your whole life, or is it like a newer thing?
since the Ascension album that we put out in 2008, I started learning Pro Tools in 2006,
Okay.
and it took me 2 years to learn and slowly piece together the mixes for that album. So we finally put it out in 2008, 2 years after we started.
Are you all self-taught for the most part?
Yeah, yeah.
That's insane.
My mentor Rob, he was the one that basically let me sit down next to him and watch everything that he was doing.
Hmm.
And I did that for about 6 months to a year, and then he let me kind of take over the controls, and um, from there on, it's been self-taught. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's just production is just a whole different world. I'm an audio engineering technology major right now in
Oh, that's
college, but
awesome.
yeah, but I'm on Logic and it's just so much to learn because before this I just had been a musician. I hadn't tried to produce anything, and
Right.
I'm on winter break right now. I was trying to get a song out, but it's so hard. And without like a studio, like I was trying to record drums in my family
Right.
room, and
Right.
it's just it's
Yeah, man.
crazy.
But anything can almost work. That's what I learned. You if you record something, as long as it sounds good, as long as you can get that part, you can almost record anything anywhere.
Yeah,
I don't know Logic myself, honestly. Pro Tools is the only DAW that I know, and I can fly through that. But if you put me in any other DAW, I wouldn't know what I was doing. So,
yeah. Do you have do you have a favorite like project you've worked on?
oh man, that is a great question. I mean, I've worked on a lot of awesome projects.
Yeah.
I think the opportunity to work with the guys in Seven Dust, I have to say, was my like life uh, goal achievement, just to be in the same room as like Lejean and John and Morgan, and be putting those ideas together, even if it was just for an Instamix clinic. That was amazing to me.
Hmm.
And So yeah, I mean that one would probably be the highlight so far. But initially getting in with Morgan when him and I were going to produce a artist for the first time together, that was a huge honor and still is. So just that whole relationship, I would say, and
Yeah.
projects that have come from that.
Have you toured with any of the bands you've produced for?
Not yet. No. No.
Is that like would that be the dream tour lineup, or do you have like a dream lineup with like huge bands or
Oh
anything
man.
like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've been so out of thinking about this
Yeah.
because just the state of the world for the last year and a half. I feel so grateful to have gone on the Uproar tour that we did with that
Hmm.
kind of a lineup. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
no, nothing. We talk all the time about when going on a tour with all the bands we're working with, like the Elysium guys, the Allborn guys, 3 Years Hollow, any of these new up and coming bands that we work with, Face the Fire, and just going on a big, tour
Yeah,
would
that'd
be
be
sweet.
amazing. Like I know you guys came pretty close to me in Winchester with the Powerman 5000 Soil. Well, it was Soil
Yeah,
that was on there, right?
yeah, yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
that I mean those are just such amazing lineups. And
Yeah.
it's do you prefer obviously it's cooler to play like these amphitheaters and whatever, but is there like any kind of preference with club or festival or anything?
Yeah, I mean, the Uproar stuff was cool in the outdoor stages. That was the first time where we ever played a crowd that large.
Yeah.
So there is something different about going out to a crowd, and there's already this amped up energy. So, you put your fist in the air, like David Draymond says, and 10,000 people erupt, and there's nothing like that feeling.
Yeah.
It gives you a certain confidence, like, oh, holy crap, like these guys are here to see me. I don't have to be afraid to be on the stage.
Yeah.
And when we first started it, I was very shy, very stage fright, to go on some of these small stages. So I would say the tour that we did with Nonpoint, those types of venues where there's like 500 people, Nonpoint and Red, um, it's just so cool to be able to play in front of them and then go over to the merch table and basically be able to meet and talk to everybody that wants to come over and say hello.
Mm-hmm.
So those types of shows were definitely my favorite.
Yeah. Oh man, that's just like touring so heavily. Does that wear down on you, or did you like it?
I loved it. But being away, we probably toured a little bit too much at sometimes, like, because we'd be gone for 2 months at a time instead of
Mm-hmm.
maybe just going out for a month and then coming home for a couple weeks. We
Yeah.
would go out for 2 months, and which isn't anything compared to some of these guys. Like Elysium would go out for 4 months straight and tour, and
Yeah.
that will wear you down for sure. So
Yeah. And so you're the singer for the band, obviously. Have you been singing for a long time, or was that like the self-taught thing too, like with producing?
yeah, I mean, I think I've been singing for most of my life, just in some non-professional manner. And then I, it was never rock music or metal music growing up. It was, Boys to Men, Michael Jackson,
Oh yeah.
those types of things. So I think Breaking Benjamin, Creed, Seven Dust. It was really Creed and Seven Dust, I think, were the first two heavy bands that I ever heard that got
Yeah.
me into rock. And then I basically started trying to emulate Lejeune and Maynard from Tool and Ben and David Draymond from Disturbed and Pete from Chevelle. These were all the guys that I wanted to sing and sound like. So
Yeah. Yeah.
self-taught, but I owe those guys a ton for the influence.
Yeah, because when you listen to 3 Years Hollow song, especially the newer stuff, like you can hear like the Breaking Benjamin influence in there for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, they're an influence for you guys. Or as the whole band goes, who are some other of the big ones?
Yeah, our drummer Kush was influenced by Rush, Porcupine Tree, a lot more progressive stuff. But also loved Filter, 3 Days Grace, those types of things. Neil was pop punk all the way. Tony was 80s, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses. That was his, style.
Yeah.
Mixed with Seven Dust and Breaking Benjamin and that kind of flavor. So
Yeah.
I was mostly really heavy into the new rock music, new metal.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. That's just, man, such a great like story. Such a cool, The Attic, 3 Years Hollow, and then
thanks,
3
man.
Years Inc. Is that
Yeah.
where does that
Oh
sort of
man, you're right. There's all sorts of things. I owe my friend Tom Baumgartner, who's also our manager. He is the co-owner and the president of 3 Years Inc. So we needed a company to manage us, and we also started wanting to take on other bands and kind of help show them the things that we learned,
Mhm.
so that they wouldn't have to make some of the same mistakes that we did. So basically take that whole 7 years of time that we wasted, so to speak, and put it more in like a 2 to 3 year time period
Yeah.
to get you to the next level. So that's where that came in, and he runs that, and we're going to be growing that a lot in 2021 as well. So
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that's about all I got for you, man.
yeah,
Thanks
that's
so
cool,
much
man.
for
I
coming on,
appreciate it, buddy.
dude. Bro,
Thanks,
of
man.
course. All right,
Yeah, reach out anytime.
yeah, dude. Thank you so much, man.